I want to welcome our two guests in the studio today, Dr. Louis Zirkle and Jean Dillner. Jean is the CEO, and of course Dr. Zirkle is the person who first started doing this, he tells me, 16 years ago. What is it that you do? What is SIGN, Dr. Zirkle?
SIGN is a combination of education for surgeons around the world, combined with donation of appropriate implants so they can implement the education.
And right now, how many countries are you in?
52.
52 countries, that's a lot. And you were telling me, Jean, 200 and some hospitals?
Over 250 hospitals are using the SIGN equipment and training every day. Surgeons are using the orthopedic equipment that we provide every single day.
And Dr. Zirkle, how did you get involved in SIGN in the very first place? I want you to, Jean, would you grab that other microphone and use it, because that one there does not work so well. So throw it out of the way, just push it back, that one. Yes, good, excellent. And we'll go with that one. Dr. Zirkle, how did you get involved in this? How in the first place?
Well, it started with my service in Vietnam when I treated the Vietnamese civilians. And I became aware there are people who have no choice when they've been injured. And then I went to Indonesia and taught. And then I went to Vietnam, but I went back to Indonesia and I saw a man lying in bed. He'd been there for 3 years because he couldn't afford an implant and because they couldn't use the implants from the United States. So we had to start all over with the education and then design of implants that can be used in developing countries.
So what exactly does SIGN do? I mean, what is the implant that you're talking about? Are there different ones, or is there primarily one thing that you're talking about?
We have a series of implants, but the main one is a rod that goes down through the middle of the bone to hold the fracture in place. And then there are screws on either side of the fracture to control rotation and shortening. So it's a very firm fixation, which means they can walk the day after surgery. Some use crutches, but they can all get up and move the day after surgery.
The day after surgery, and if they didn't have this implant, what would it be like?
Well, they would be in traction for 3 months to 6 months.
So while they were waiting for it to heal naturally?
Yes, but they wouldn't have good control of the fracture, so that often would heal in a poor position or not heal at all.
Wow. All right. What makes the countries that you go to and their health care for people different than here in the States, for example, so that we can relate to that for people that live here? What kind of health care do they have in these countries?
They basically, very few of them have insurance, and they're very poor people. The poor people live in developing countries, and therefore they have no way of getting treated. They basically go to the hospital and take whatever they get without a choice.
Mm-hmm. That's hard to imagine. I can't imagine people having a broken limb and not being able to get it fixed. It must be incredibly painful for them and a lot of suffering.
It's painful and disabling, and we see a lot of patients that have been treated by local bone healers, whose service doesn't work, and therefore they come back later with their fractures either healed in a wrong position or not healed at all. So, but what we do is not do the surgery ourselves. We go in, teach the local surgeons how to do the surgery, and they continue to do the SIGN surgeries.
And where do these implements come from? I read somewhere that they are manufactured here in the States.
Yes, they're manufactured in our plant, which is located in North Richland. So we employ engineers and machinists to manufacture these FDA-cleared implants, which we distribute to the 52 countries around the world.
Are those implants used in the United States?
Yes, in some areas, but I think because of FDA regulations, which would increase our costs, we may have to stop that in 3 years.
Oh, okay. So you're just manufacturing, or what you will be in the future is usually for use in these other countries that are part of your program.
That's correct.
What does it take for a country, a hospital, a group of doctors to be part of your program?
Interested hospitals write to us and they go through an application and approval process. They hear about us through their colleagues, their orthopedic colleagues. So it's generally an orthopedic surgeon in a developing country that writes to us and asks if they can become a program. Then we need help to find sponsors to start the program, so donations to help fund the equipment.
Well, it's kind of remarkable to me that you have been able to create this, which is almost like a industry. It's an industry of its own right here in the Tri-Cities, and then helping all of these countries. And you have done this through donations? Or did you get a United Nations grant, or is there other worldwide money coming? How does this work?
It's predominantly through donations, and predominantly through donations provided to us by people who live in the Tri-Cities. So we're incredibly grateful to their generosity, and they've been helping more than 150,000 patients walk because of their generosity.
Okay, I knew this was important here in the Tri-Cities, but I don't think I realized that it was primarily supported by people who live here. That's quite remarkable. I'm surprised that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has not been involved. Have you approached them at all? Or you don't need their money?
Well,
We need their money.
we have approached them, but it's a very vicious field of the nonprofit world. And they have determined that they will just treat or teach education, methods, and infectious diseases.
Oh, okay, so they've decided that they're gonna narrow, you don't fit their niche
Not at
right
this
now,
time.
right
No.
now, yeah. Mhm.
We'd like to be able to change their mind if we had the chance.
Well, keep working it, Dr. Zirkle. You've changed a lot of people's minds.
We are.
So I'm confident you will keep working on it. So what kinds of reasons are there that people have these fractures? I mean, how common is a bone fracture in a developing country?
50 million people are injured each year by road traffic accidents. Road traffic accidents is the major cause of fractures in developing countries, but also they don't have the industrial safeguards that we have here, so there's a lot of trauma from industry. But the majority of the time, it's the motorcycle, which can be purchased by $500, and it turns into the family vehicle, and then young boys rent these motorcycles by the day and transport school kids back and forth to school.
And we've all seen pictures of the incredible, there could be like, just in one intersection, maybe like, I'm going to say 400 vehicles. Well, of course there have to be accidents. I mean, it's remarkable that they don't have more accidents, quite frankly. But yeah, ooh.
Well, that's the problem. They're getting more accidents,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we have to expand our scope.
One of our hospitals was down to a reasonable number of patients, and then within 2 years, they doubled the number of patients, and they have patients lying on the floor. Even though they have our equipment and the training to use it, they can't keep up because the number of patients is growing so rapidly.
Oh my. All right, we're going to take a break here, but we will be back. We have a lot more to ask Dr. Louis Zirkle and Jean Dillner, so stay with us. I'm back here thinking about these motorcycles. So what do you perceive as the future if industrialized or developing countries become more mobile? Obviously, they're going to have more motorcycles. So do you simply see the need for this increasing?
We see the need increasing, and we also see the need to develop better instruments, which we have done. We're pretty well maxed out there, and now we're working on facilities. We want to change the protocol so the patients can get into surgery a lot quicker. If they get in within 1 or 2 days after their accident, the surgery lasts about half as long as if they're operated on 2 weeks after injury. So we're trying to make a role change in the hospitals, which is time consuming because the people are paid a salary and they don't hustle as much as we'd like to see in between cases.
Yeah. How do you train doctors of all these different languages?
They speak English, but they're and they know that English is the language of orthopedics, so they have learned it, and they really want to learn. They're just very gratifying to work with.
English becomes the universal language. I had pretty much heard that before, but now here's another example of it. So you were telling me during the break that, you know, what you're doing, Dr. Zirkle, is spending a lot of time on a daily basis looking at a database. So all of your connections around the world, it all basically comes to you here in the Tri-Cities, and you are watching what they're doing. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what are you reviewing in these databases?
Well, the primary review is of the X-ray. We started the database to evaluate sign. The first rule for a physician is to do no harm. So we wanted to be sure that our implant was doing what we intended it for to do. And then each fracture is different, so there are decisions to be made by the surgeon. So we discuss those decisions, such as which end of the bone do you put the rod up, and other decisions like that. So we can all learn more. We want to be better than 80%. We want to be 100%. So we're looking at these cases, and we actually are contributing to the knowledge of surgeons around the world, even in the United States, about treatment of fractures.
Mm-hmm. So, Jean, tell me some of the stories of the people that you meet, because I know you have been on many of these trips yourself, and I know you were telling me you just came back from the Philippines and Cambodia. I want to hear about the people. What do you see?
Well, I got the honor of interviewing about 14 sign patients in Cambodia, and the one that sticks out the most to me is a man in his mid-40s who was a taxi driver on a motorcycle, which was hit by a car. And so he was injured and wound up in the hospital in Cambodia and was able to get a sign surgery right away. And because he has 4 little girls at home and a wife as well, he was very motivated to get up the next day and walk. Unfortunately, he was a little too motivated because he walked without his crutches, but his doctors learned about it and coached him that it was okay to not walk with crutches for at least a few weeks so that he could allow the bone to heal.
Mm-hmm.
But he's very motivated to get back on the motorcycle and be able to raise money to help feed his children and keep his children in school and shelter over their heads. Another one that was very encouraging and challenging from an intellectual point of view of all of the surgeons, including Dr. Zirkle, was this little girl who had a tumor, 10-year-old girl, had a tumor which made her leg short. And so Dr. Zirkle got to interview she and her father the day before the surgery, and her father wanted to make sure that her leg would get lengthened, and they were concerned, of course, about the benignness or lack, or perhaps it was cancer, the tumor.
Mm-hmm.
But, and she was very shy on camera. She wouldn't really look at the camera the day before, but we got a picture today of 2 days after the surgery, and it was such a success that they lengthened the leg. They got initial reports is that it is a benign tumor, and so the family is shown very happy, and she's standing with 2 same length legs and her little pink little flip-flops to match her pink little dress. And so it was really sweet to see how alike we are. We might be from a different world in a sense, but you know, we're just as excited about her recovery as we are about the 45-year-old man, and the lives that these people impact because they are better and are able to get back into their work or school
Mm-hmm.
lives, their lives for their whole families and future families in that whole family are going to be so much better because they got such immediate care.
So these are poor countries, and they don't have disability pay, for example.
That's
I mean,
correct.
here in the States, if people injure themselves on the job, they often can get some kind of disability pay to support their family. But in these countries, they don't have that. So getting back to work, I can understand that. They're highly motivated. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so what is this nail made out of? You were telling me, Dr. Zirkle, that you think it's actually the best in the world right now, the quality of this nail. What is it made out of?
Well, first of all, I'd tell you I'm prejudiced. War side.
Yeah, I got that part.
Okay. It's made out of stainless steel. It's made out of FDA-approved stainless steel, and our whole system is approved by the FDA for use in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the components of the implant are all made from stainless steel, but the configuration, the shape of it, is what sets off Sign. And the other thing that sets a Sign apart from others is the fact that it can be placed without radiation, without using X-rays, which are taken in the operating room to place the screws through the slots of the nail.
Mm-hmm.
So the patient is not irradiated, and neither is the surgeon.
And other people have studied your work as well?
Yes, the Norwegians studied us for our infection, and they found that even though we do reduction by open, we have to open the fracture site, our infection rate is no higher than any other series in the developed world.
Mm-hmm.
And other surgeons, one from Boston, one from Vancouver, have studied how our system holds the fracture in what position.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to lose position, and they've showed it, it's equivalent to any. So those are the two major things about treating fractures.
Okay, so follow me here, and I don't know if I'm correct or not, but you're in the Asian countries, and a lot of their injuries have to do with traffic accidents or motorcycle related. In the Middle East, are the not accidents, but is it related to war injuries?
Primarily war injuries. In fact, in Syria, we treated some of the young children who were shot from the rooftops by government troops. We're still getting some reports from Aleppo about how they've treated patients. They're just incredible how they're looking out for their own people.
Mm-hmm. Besides Syria, what other countries is your program in?
Well, of the conflict countries is
Yes.
South Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, and Pakistan.
Oh, boy. Okay. I already asked you this before, but are you able to keep up with the need? I'm looking at the worldwide need now,
We're not keeping up.
Mm-hmm.
We're not keeping up with the increasing number of road traffic accidents. That's really why we need more funding, because if we get more funding, we can start more programs, and we can institute programs in hospitals where we'll see more and more people. So we're looking for ways to keep up.
We're having a benefit on October 24th here in the Tri-Cities. So we invite people to look on our website to learn more about that. And it's been a very successful benefit. It raises a good portion of our budget every year. So we invite people to attend that.
That's October 24th, and your website is what? What's
www.signfracturecare.org.
signfracturecare.org.
That's correct.
You raise the majority of your $4 to $5 million annual budget?
Not the majority,
Wow.
but a good portion of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really helps.
Well, one of the beauties of this program seems to me is that you're not just taking doctors from the U.S. away from their work here, going to another country to do the work and then coming back. The whole program is all about training people to take care of themselves,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes. We build capacity by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very avid and very enthusiastic sign surgeons. We have a conference each year and 150 show up, and it's a very lively 4 days.
That'll be at our facility in North Richland, September 16th through the 19th.
What, so you're bringing doctors from around the world here to
Yeah.
the Tri-Cities?
Generally,
Yeah.
there's at least 30 different countries represented in this conference that we have every year.
Well, I knew your work was important. I guess I didn't know how important it was. All right, we're going to take a break here. We will take your questions or your comments. You may give us a call. That number, 547-8726. And we are back in just a moment. Welcome back to Meet in the Middle. I am Christine Brown. My guests today are Dr. Louis Zirkle and Gene Dillner. Gene is the CEO, and Dr. Zirkle also, of course, he's the founder of Sign here in the Tri-Cities. And Tri-Cities is kind of like the middle of the universe here, and their spokes go out to all these other countries around the world. 52 countries, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that is a lot of people are being helped. And you're saying that the Tri-Cities folks have been your primary donors and organizations here in the Tri-Cities. What organizations?
Well, Kiwanis is probably the biggest organization to help us. They've given $1 million, and they're still raising more, and not just in the Tri-Cities, but throughout the Northwest, and Kiwanis organizations around the country.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the biggest. Rotary has given us some money locally, and some of the companies like Bruker have helped us a great deal. Battelle has been very helpful for us, as has the Port of Benton. We are in a Port of Benton building, which we manage there, and they've been a very good partner.
Mm-hmm. What do you hope for the future? I mean, what do you hope is going to happen in the next 10 years or 15 years? Do you want these countries to take over what you're doing, or what? What do you want?
We would love for organizations to take over what we're doing, whether they take over the manufacturing, if they do it right. Now, other people have copied Sign from Pakistan, China, and India, but they've used bad metal, and they put the Sign name on it. We don't like that. But if they would take some of our ideas and use them, we would be happy. We have other ideas like covering carpenter drills with a drill cover, and a man in the Philippines may do that and market that. We like that. We like other instruments made by other companies to help us. So we're not possessive, but because there's such a big need that we love to have partners.
I think right now we're also looking at teaching the teachers,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously we're able to help 150,000 patients only because the local surgeons are doing the work. Now we would like them to also have a bigger role in providing the teaching aspects that we focus on, not just in the orthopedic principles, but also in, like, we have lean manufacturing in our shop, but lean operations in the operating theaters and caring for the patients on the ward. So that's where maybe our focus will change a little bit in how we're providing the training to the surgeons, is through the actual leaders in their countries.
What about training here in the States? Any training at medical universities and that type of thing?
Yes, when the surgeons come over here, they often spend time at university training centers around, UCSF especially. We have a flap course there where we learn how to cover fractures there. So they do go around and they spend time. We try to arrange this with our friends.
Mm-hmm.
But the surgery that they do in the United States is different from overseas.
Yeah. So you were telling me during the break that of all these different organizations associated with the United Nations or in the United States, helping people in other countries, the big gap was really in fracture care. So nobody else was doing that work. You really have filled a gap there, a hole in the world.
Well, it's a bigger gap than we're filling, so
Yes.
we need help.
You were an active orthopedic surgeon. I mean, you did that full time, and then you were doing Sign, 16 years ago, 10 years ago on the side.
Yes.
And how did you transition? Because now you only do Sign work. You have no local patient load.
Well, I knew I had to transition because I was so busy in my practice and so busy at Sign, and I wasn't sleeping at night, so I knew I had to make a change, and I chose Sign.
Okay, so it's a broader gift to other people. All right, tell me more about some of the people. I like hearing the people stories, so dig out some more people stories. What do you got?
Well, you have a picture of my little friend Martha.
Yes.
thanks to our relationship with Kiwanis, who wanted to visit a hospital, and we chose for them a hospital located in Tanzania, which does 600 to 700 sign surgeries a year. That we chose that one because it's a big teaching hospital, and they would get to see the impact of sign more impressively there. And because they were coming with us and they have a big focus on helping children, we brought along our pediatric nail for this particular trip. And it just so happens there was a little girl named Martha in the pediatric ward who had just the day before entered into the hospital because she had received a terrible fracture of her femur. Her doctor told me that if we hadn't arrived and given her that surgery, taught him how to give her the surgery with this pediatric device, that she would have lain in hospital for 3 months or more. And not been able to return to school. And school was the thing that was giving her the hope for a better future. She was actually an orphan raised by her grandmother. So I got to know her over the course of the week as she was recovering from the surgery, and realized that she's a bright little girl. And I was told that she probably would only get to go to 5th grade because her grandmother didn't have the money to send her on to future grades. So my husband and I decided that we would provide her with the support that she needed to be able to go to a boarding school, learn English, which would give her better opportunities for going on to college. And in the beginning, she was like every little girl, well, I want to be a teacher, or I want to be a stewardess. But for the last 2 years when I visit her, it's pretty much been, I want to be an engineer, and she's quite serious about it now. So I'm very excited for her and look forward to the times when I get to see her, which is only when we go once a year to the area that she lives in to provide sign training.
Once a year, though, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And every now and then an email.
Yeah.
So.
Well, email can connect us around the world. So what Jean is talking about, because I think it's pretty interesting, I was telling them when they just arrived here today earlier, that I thought about having Sign as a guest on the show, and it was kind of always in the back of my mind, but the reason it really came to me is because I was talking to people at Columbia Sun RV Resort out in Badger Canyon. I had them on last week, and I went out to their location and talked to some people there, and on their counter, they gave it to me, was a sheet that has printed on both sides about the Sign program, because they are a local partner of yours. So they want to tell people about your program, and they want to encourage people to donate to your program. So you must have other people. You just you're digging up supporters wherever you can get them, aren't you?
We are. We're not particular.
You're not picky about that at all. So you are thinking that over the course of these 16 years, you have helped 150,000 people?
More than.
More than that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you keep track of that now through your database, what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's on every week. We increase the tally on the front page of our website. It shows, I think on Friday every week they update the numbers. So we know that it's 152, I think, thousand people now. So yeah, it's growing. But the need, as Dr. Zirkle has mentioned, the need is much greater than what we can do alone. And so we do need the word to spread about the importance of our work. We are helping developing nations keep people employed and children in school so that the whole economy of the developing nation can improve.
Mm-hmm. Now, do these people provide any kind of support to your program? Is, on a sliding scale, but are they expected to give something to the hospital or the doctor, or nothing?
They're not expected to, and the reason is most of them are desperately poor. Plus, they have to pay for their medicines and the dressings and other aspects of hospitalization. It's just cleaner if we ask the programs just to treat the poor, don't sell our implant, and if we catch them doing that, we stop the program. And we do that because the poor are the biggest need. Other people can get at least some implants, but the poor don't have a choice.
Yeah. Wow, okay, well, the war-torn countries really are just picturing that in your mind, because we do see a lot of pictures of families and children who are injured, and And we're in Afghanistan and Iraq, right?
Yes.
You are. That's, yeah. And what kinds, and these are war-related injuries as well?
Well, they have their traffic accidents
Yes,
too,
yeah.
and but a lot of them are war-related. Even in Pakistan, a lot of the Afghanistan people go to Peshawar, Pakistan, and we learn a huge amount from them about treating fractures that are open to the air, and we are using sign much earlier in their treatment, and it's working. These surgeons are wonderful. In fact, there's a colonel in the Afghan army who did a sign nail in 4 minutes, and he brought a video to show us
Mm-hmm.
at the sign conference, and it's just really gratifying to work with them.
I bet it is. We're out of time here, but I certainly want to thank you for showing up on my program today and talking about this important service that you do. And thanks so much for doing it, and doing it out of here, out of the Tri-Cities.
Thank you for
Nice.
asking.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
We're back in a moment.